Morning, Mr. Hauser.
Morning, Bob. Morning, Holly. On behalf of the management and the employees, I'd like to welcome Mr. Bluejay, Mr. Knobloch, you, Bob, and you, Holly, to the Dr. Scholl Shoe Manufacturing Company here in Jefferson. I'm sure that you're going to find your tour this morning very informative. I'm also sure that there will be some surprises as far as the number of operations that are needed to manufacture just one pair of shoes. So we're glad to have you here.
We appreciate you having us.
Hello, I'm Holly Grauman, and this is Bob Armstrong.
How do you do? Mighty glad to meet you.
We'd like to ask you a few questions. Did you go to school in Jefferson?
Yes, I graduated from Jefferson High School in 1937.
How did Dr. Scholl's business first start?
Well, it started, my great-great-grandfather originated this factory in 1868. They were originally shoemakers out in Brockton, Massachusetts, and they were moving, they had to move west for their health, and they were going to go to Minneapolis, and they got as far as Jefferson, and the horse died. And they started making shoes in Jefferson.
How have you been able to keep in business all this time?
Well, through changing our styles, and of course when they started their factory, they only started with a factory that was 24 by 36 feet. And right now, they were only making about 5 or 6 pair a day, and right now we're making a little over 600 pair a day, and we're shooting for 750 pair a day. And the reason we're staying in business is it's changing styles and keeping up the quality. The main thing is quality. You've got to have quality in order to sell a shoe.
Any questions?
What is your job here at the plant?
Well, I am the general manager of the plant, and of course, I'm quite sure you're well aware of the fact that we are a subsidiary of the Scholl organization. Our mother office is in Chicago.
How long have you been the head?
I've been, I was superintendent for 10 years, and I've been a general manager for about 6 years now.
Did this pass from person in the family to the next person in the family, or did you have to work for it?
Well, Dr. Scholl, it used to be Copeland and Ryder, and Dr. Scholl bought us out in 1946. And, of course, I am the fourth generation of Copeland's that have been at the head of this plant.
Do you like your job here?
Very much so. I like Jefferson.
If you had a chance to go back to your school days, which classes would you prefer to take?
What classes would I... Well, I guess, I believe I like sports better than anything. But if I went back to school, I like history and things like that.
Have these classes helped you through your work?
Oh, definitely, definitely. The main thing is quality. You've got to keep. We make an inspection every day to check the quality on the shoes. And of course, as I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but our shoes retail anywhere from $30 to $50 a pair. And when a person pays $35, $40, $50 a pair of shoes, he expects something, and that is why we are always fighting quality.
Well, do you know how many different kinds of shoes you make here?
Right now we have about 54, 55 different styles.
Do you have many accidents a year?
No, we are very fortunate. We are very fortunate.
What happens if, like, something happens in a shoe? Do you just throw it out, or is it made into something else?
Well, there's a point of no return. If the shoes are damaged before we put the sole on, then we repair them. But after they put the sole on and they're damaged, then they go on through the plant, and then we throw them out. We probably throw out about 4 or 5% of our shoes. Maybe not quite that high.
Do you make only dress shoes, or do you make like working boots and sports shoes?
We make majority of our shoes are dress shoes. Our men's we just make the high-priced men's shoes. We buy a lot of shoes and we warehouse them here, but you can't make an expensive shoe and a cheap shoe in the same factory. They've got to be after a while they all even off. We buy the cheaper shoes, and we make the expensive shoes.
Do you make like golf shoes and football shoes?
We make golf shoes, but no football shoes. We just
Where do you get most of your materials for making the shoes?
Well, from the leather, we try to stick with 50% of our leather from the States, but we buy a lot of it from Germany, France.
Is leather still overall better than man-made products?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. I'm quite sure that we tried to make man-made shoes, and we've had nothing but problems. They don't wear as well. They don't fit to your foot as leather. You cannot beat a good piece of leather.
Does it mean then that leather could probably help foot problems along better than man-made products?
I would definitely say so, yes.
Do you make many shoes out of suede?
Right now, we're going very big in suede. Suede is going to be very big this fall and the styling.
What causes some foot problems in adults and children?
What causes some foot problems? Being not fitted correctly, that's all. Some people try to wear too small of shoes, or they try to go with a style rather than the fit of the shoe, and that'll definitely cause you a foot problem.
How come it is that you can buy one shoe like in size 7 and go to another company and buy it in size 7? Maybe that size 7 be too small.
Well, the lasts do vary somewhat. We try to have them all lasts. All companies try to have the same measurements on the last, but some companies will vary just a little.
Do you make many orthopedic shoes?
Orthopedics, we probably make 7, 8, or 9 pair of special makeups a day. That's all we'll make of special makeups.
Do you take special orders?
Yes. Mm-hmm. We're trying to get away from it because it's too expensive and it's too much work. It's easier if you can make 150 pair of all or 200 pair of all one style. But we do. That's what Scholl was built on, and we're still doing it.
What makes Dr. Scholl's shoes stand out in the shoe industry?
Well, Bob, I think the main thing that we're known for in the shoe industry, and in fact we're the only shoe company in the entire world that makes this hand-pegged arch. These pegs are put in entirely by hand. We have 7 or 8 boys during the day and about 4 at night, and that's all they do all day long, as you'll note as we take the tour. This feature makes this shank portion here hug the arch of the foot, and that's where the comfort is found in this shoe. There's no other company in the world that does this hand pegging, as I said before, and that is our strongest selling point. Of course, all the other raw materials that go into the shoe are the best that we can buy, and as you will note through the tour, we think, and I think you'll agree with us, that we make one of the finest shoes in the United States.
Do you make more men's shoes than you do women's shoes?
We make 99% men's shoes. We have just one style of a ladies' shoe that we make, and it would be for a lady that has very sore feet, has bunions on the bottom of her foot. And that's the only ladies' shoe that we would make here.
You make children's shoes?
No, we don't make the children's shoes here, although the Dr. Scholl shoe company does have children's shoes, but we don't make them. Downstairs in the stock room, we showed you the finished product, what the shoes look like when they're finished, but now it's time for us to start to see exactly how these shoes are put together. And right here in these bins, you'll note that we have all different colors of leather, all different kinds of leather, and if you would look very close on some of these wrappings, you could even identify some of the countries that they come from. For instance, this one here with a white wrapping on happens to be a black calfskin, and it comes from France. Our leathers come from practically all countries of the world.
How does the leather from the United States arrive, Dr. Scholl?
Bob, the leathers, as you'll note, are fairly large packages, and so therefore they all are shipped into us by truck.
Did the recent trucking strike affect your output?
No, not really. It would have if it would have extended over a longer period of time, but we do keep quite a supply of the different types of leather, so due to the short duration of the strike, it really didn't bother us.
Do you know how many different kinds of leather you have in here?
Well, I never really stopped to count them, but there must be about, if we would include the different colors and the different types of leather, I'm sure there's between 30 and 40 different kinds.
Thank you.
This is a kangaroo skin here. And this, as you probably know, kangaroos are most numerous in Australia. Anyway, they were up until about a few years ago. Now, because of their value as a leather, they are gradually becoming extinct. Therefore, kangaroo skin has become increasingly hard to find. One of the good points of a kangaroo skin is that it's very lightweight and it's very strong. It goes into the manufacturing of a lot of athletic shoes, such as golf shoes, track shoes, or baseball shoes, anything like These skins here are kid skins. And as the name implies, they come from a little goat. Now here, in this instance, if we hold that up, you'll be able to see, and I want to crowd you out of here. This is the neck, this is the butt end, and these are the legs. That's just the way the skin comes off the animal. This too is a very lightweight skin, very comfortable. It has one drawback, and that is that it nicks very easily. This here is what we call a crinkle patent side leather. It is leather, but it has a polyurethane finish on it. Makes it very shiny, makes it very easy to keep clean, and requires very little upkeep. This, if we can pull that up, is half of a hide cow. This portion here, see the neck, this would be the butt end. Let's turn that around so we get a shot of the cloth. Right here would be one of the legs. Down here would be another one of the legs. So really, this is half of the hide. As I mentioned before, the upper leather that we use in our shoes comes from many different countries. France, Germany, Australia, Canada, and of course from many tanneries here in the United States. Do you have any questions, Bob, or all that? Well, this here is just a continuation of our storage. Now, these bins here are the various outsoles that we use on our shoes. This happens to be a leather one. Of course, if you'll note, farther on down the line, we do have crepe rubber, and on the other side, you'd be able to see the neoprene that we put on our work shoes. I think as we go through the tour, it'll be very interesting to see just exactly what does happen to these outsoles that we're looking at here right now.
Where do you get many of these soles from?
Well, these soles, these leather soles, I would say that about 90% of those come from the state of Massachusetts and also Virginia.
Does this arrive in rolls like this and you cut it out, or do they arrive pre-cut?
No, they come, this is called the blank. They come in this shape, but we do have various sizes to fit the various size shoes that we make. And also, I might add, there's various thicknesses, and we might be referring to that as iron as we go through the tour, so you'll understand that. Oh, are you? We have now entered the sole leather room. This room is used for the processing of the insole, the outsole, counters. These are the various components that go into the shoe, and they join it at the proper sequence on the second floor. Now, as the camera pans here, you're going to notice various machines. Although we won't see all of them in operation, we'll try and give you the highlights of what is exactly done up here in this room. The first operation that we witnessed was the rounding of the insole to size and width. Now, the insole is perhaps the most important part of the shoe, in that it is compared to the keel of a ship. Everything is built around the insole, just as everything is built around the keel of a ship. We're perhaps one of the few shoe companies in the United States that use a 6 to 6.5 iron insole. That's a fairly heavy insole. But we do it because of our pegging operation, and also we do it for its strength. Now, this next lady is stamping the size and the width on the insole, so that when the insole is tacked to the last, that we're always sure that we're getting the right size onto the last.
Do you enjoy your job?
I sure do.
Is it a very hard job, or is it easier to do?
It's not difficult labor-wise, but you must think at all times.
What
Keeps you busy.
What is this machine doing?
It's shaping the insoles to fit the different size shoes.
Well, how many different size shoes do you put out a day? Or insole?
A little over 600.
Well, like all these soles, do you have to take them over to the next lady and have her put the size on them?
Well, we use kind of like an assembly. We put them here, and then she stamps them, and then they get what we call slashed, and they go right down the line until they go downstairs to the next floor. And they have another process down.
As I mentioned before, we use a heavier sole than most shoe companies do. In order to make this insole a little bit more flexible, we use this operation here, which is putting some slash marks across the bottom of the insole, and therefore it makes it much more flexible. This next operation here, the operator is applying a thin coat of cement to the bottom of the insole, whereby the ply rib is attached. And we'll see the ply rib on the next operation. This operation here, although the operator isn't here at the present time, she's performing an operation on the second floor, is very important. This machine applies this ply rib material to the bottom of the insole. And eventually, the whole shoe bottom is attached to this little rib here. This is perhaps one of the most important operations in this room. Well, we are now panning the cutting room. This department is the first department where we actually start working on the shoes themselves. As you will note, as we move down this line, the operators have little boxes of dies setting beside their machine. And these dies are used to cut the various parts of the upper which later are sewed together in the fitting room. There are various styles, various designs, various leathers that are used. And at this distance, it would be rather hard to identify the leather, but Holly and Bob are going to interview one of our cutters that has been with us for a long time, Mr. Caston. And I'm sure they're going to ask him what type of leather he's cutting. Everett, Mr. Caston, this is Holly Grauman and Bob Armstrong, and they have a few questions that they'd like to ask you in regards to cutting.
What kind of leather are you cutting?
I'm cutting side leather. Side leather.
How powerful is this machine?
Well, they've got on here 16 ton as far as pressure is concerned. I don't know what it really possesses in amount of pressure, but it says 16 ton on it.
Now, is this the plate? Does that cut the leather and this push it down?
That's right. I'll lay a die down. I'll lay this die down. See, this die has two edges. This way it'll cut the left vamp, and this way it'll cut the right vamp. So I lay it like this. Now I have a left vamp. I turn the die over. Now I have the mate to it, a right vamp. See? There's your right and the left. Like that. In your face. One pair of them.
About how many do you turn out a day?
Oh, I cut around anywhere from about 135 to 160 pairs, somewhere along in there. It all depends upon what type shoe I'm cutting. Some shoes I cut around 135 pair. This particular shoe here, I'll probably run, maybe about 210 pairs, something like that, 220.
Is this a very difficult job?
Well, there isn't any job difficult after you know what you're doing, you know. But to learn it, it's a little difficult until you learn where to put your scars and how to lay your die in order to get the most out of your leather and to get it in stretch. So the shoe doesn't, after it's made up, that the leather doesn't stretch all out of shape, you know, that the shoe gets out of shape.
You mentioned that after you work at this job for a while, it's easy. How long have you been working on this?
Well, I've been on it about 42, about 39 to 40 years.
This operation here is called skiving. And really, what it's doing is putting a feather edge on this one side of this particular piece here, which happens to be a tip. The leather that she's working on is, I believe, kangaroo, or kitskin, one or the other. Kangaroo. Wherever you have two pieces of leather being joined, if we were to join them as they are cut, when they're sewed together, they would leave quite an awkward joint. So by skiving in both ends, we get a uniform thickness. This particular operation that we're watching now is called fancy stitching. As you will note, there are three different pieces here. The eyelet stays, two eyelet stays, and the vamp. At that stage right there, they are held together by a latex cement until such time as the operator can do the fancy stitching. If you can get a close shot here, you will notice that the operator is performing at a very close edge If she should so much as run off that edge, well, that shoe is completely damaged, and we'd have to go back and have it cut over again in the cutting room and start all over on the process. Connie is sewing the three pieces of the quarter lining together here at this operation. This is the part of the shoe on the inside back. You will notice there's some printing on the one quarter lining there, and that gives us the size and the width, case number for identification, and also the style number. On this operation, the operator is sewing a binding to the edge of the quarters. Now there's another operation that will immediately follow this one, whereby this binding is turned over to give the top line of the shoe a finished look. As we progress through this aisle here, we will notice one other method that is used in the shoe industry of giving a finished edge on the top line. I'll explain this operation on a bit. On this operation here, we are witnessing the binding being folded over. And if we were to examine this upper carefully, we would notice that we now have a very nicely finished edge.
What operation is happening here?
Bob, this particular operation is called edge stitching, which in reality means that the operator is stitching the quarter lining to the quarters. You notice the white part, the white cloth part, that's the vamp lining, and then the two black quarter linings are being stitched to the shiny part of the upper there, which are the quarter linings. So really what this lady is doing is putting the lining into the upper part of the shoe.
What operation is taking place here?
Holly, right here, Hazel is putting the eyelets in the shoe. This machine is similar to a machine gun. As long as you keep your foot on that pedal, the eyelets are going to keep coming out. So it's very important that the operator be trained in knowing how many eyelets are to go into the shoe and to be sure she gets her foot off the pedal in time. Otherwise, if she didn't, she would nick the shoe with a part of an eyelet, and of course then it would be damaged, and we again would be starting over on the operation.
Thank you.
What operation is taking place here?
Bob, this operation, on this operation, Rose is sewing the strap to the upper.
How does she do this? Is there any special pattern?
Well, if you could look real close, there's a little white line that was marked on the upper itself, and she has to line that strap up according to that mark.
Is this a very expensive shoe?
That shoe right there probably retails for around $38, $40.
Where did the line get put on? Where we saw it before?
That line was put on in one of the first operations that we witnessed in this room, yes.
So does she has to match it up to the white line that the other lady put on?
That's correct.
If she gets it off the line, does that damage the shoe?
Well, it possibly could vary a little bit, but if it was off too far, then things wouldn't line up right. The strap would be out of place and it wouldn't look right.
now she puts them on this rack, then someone comes and where do they take?
Well, I think this shoe is completed after that strap is on. And if we can pick one of these up, reach down there on that rack and pick one of those. Well, that isn't the one I meant. One of those with on the second row there, yes. You know, that's a finished upper. Now this upper here is ready to go to the lasting room, which we will be witnessing, and that's on the second floor. Right now, we're in the start of the lasting process. Linda is tacking the insole to the last. Now, the last, if we can get a picture of this here, Jim. This here is the last. That is the shape or the form around which the entire shoe is constructed. It's size 11D. This particular number, the 198 last, is a style that we construct most of our shoes on.
Can you describe what's happening here?
Bob, here, this is really the first step in the lasting operation. First of all, the operator is putting the counter in the counter pocket of the upper, and then she's attaching the upper to the insole with 2 tacks. In this here operation, the operator is placing the last with the upper on it inside this round muller. A muller is actually a steam room. It moistens the upper and allows the leather to stretch and to shape more freely around the last. After coming out of this muller, the operator places a box toe in the front part of the shoe, or the upper, which after it dries becomes very hard. He then places the shoe in the machine, and the machine stretches and pulls, shapes the upper over the last, and temporarily attaches the upper to the last by means of tacks, which are later removed at the end of the line. Well, now we had the second operation whereby the leather was stretched and shaped over the last. This operation here is called backdrafting and side lasting. The backdrafting is what the operator is doing right there. He's stretching and pulling the leather over the sides and the back, and putting it and holding it there by means of a tack. Then he is side lasting. He's pulling the leather over the side of the shoe, and it's held there by means of staples. You can look closely at the machine, you'll see a spool of wire. This wire is fed into the machine, and it comes out as a staple. Well, now, if you can remember back to when we were in the insole department, we stressed the importance of this ply rib right here. That's what the shoe is actually anchored to. You'll note, if you can pan in real close, there are little staples in there. They remain in the shoe for its lifetime. And that is how this upper is held firmly over the last. This operation here is called toe lasting. That's an operation whereby the leather at the toe area is shaped, formed to the contour of the last, and it's held there by a tiny piece of nylon. And I think maybe if we get a close view of that, we can see the nylon. That nylon remains in the shoe also for the length of the lifetime of the shoe. On this operation, Holly, we're shaping the back part of the upper around the heel of the last. The machine wipes the upper over real smooth, backs off, and it comes across again and dries 22 tacks at one time. And I think we'll hold up a shoe here to demonstrate exactly what I mean. This operation here consists of inspection and ironing, what we call ironing. That machine there is blowing very hot air out. And when it comes in contact with the leather, it shrinks any minor wrinkles that might be in the upper. Any irregularities that are found in the shoe at this point are shown up, and the foreman decides whether they meet our production standards or whether they don't. And if they don't, they're taken off the last and sent back to have the part cut over. We'll explain what this is. On this operation, the operator is sewing a piece of leather, or as we call it, welting, to the upper. Eventually, the whole shoe bottom, or the sole, is attached to this little piece of leather, and I think we're going to zero in here now and try and get a picture of this. The whole sole is attached to that little piece of welding. And once again, may I point out that there's that fly rib that we saw upstairs that I mentioned was so very important. Upon that, the whole bottom is attached. At this point here, the tacks that hold the insole to the last are being removed. In this operation here, Marv is removing the excess upper leather. In other words, he's trimming the upper leather off down flush with the top of the rib and top of the welding. At this point, a steel shank has already been placed in the shoe that the operator is working on, and he is stapling a leather shank piece over the top of the steel. The leather is primarily to give shape to our pegging operation, which we will witness later on in the production line.
have you been working here?
I've been working here 20 years.
Do you like your job?
It's all right.
Is it a very difficult job or is it pretty...
This is an easy job.
Is it messy?
Very. It's like frosting a cake. You just have to smear it on. It's real soft, and then it hardens when it stands in the shoe.
Do you know what it's made of?
It's made out of pork and some other compositions.
What is this operation for?
It's to fill the hollow in the shoe so that it's even to put the sole on.
Okay, thank you.
This operation, the leather sole has been applied to the bottom of the shoe, and now we start the process of shaping that sole. This particular operation is called rough rounding. He's giving the outsole kind of a rough shape. This is the outsole stitching operation. As you are probably noting, that machine is traveling at a very high rate of speed. If we were to take a look at the bottom of the shoe, which we will, we will note that the stitches run about 10 to the inch. On this operation, as you note, these rollers are going over the bottom of the shoe and leveling it. It's shaping the outsole right up into the shank, which is very important on our next operation, which is the pegging operation.
Do you have to set that for the different sizes?
Well, it has to be set for different types of shoes, yes. Well, here we are at the pegging operation, which we are known for throughout the world, the United States in particular. This operation is performed in a manner such as follows. The operator will mark a shoe, which he's going to do for us right now, to show exactly where those pegs are supposed to be put in. After marking, the operator loads his mouth with pegs. The point goes into his mouth first. The next step is he drives a hole into the bottom of the sole, places a peg on it, and then he must drive that peg with one blow. If he fails to do this with one blow, generally the peg will either drop out or mushroom over.
Bob is going to try to put the pegs into the shoes. I think he's going to do a great job, but he might swallow one. Here he goes. Now he's putting the second one in. Bob. Come on, Bob.
That's the first time I've seen him without talking.
That's the first time I've seen him without talking.
Here, ladies and gentlemen, Holly Graham is going to make a daring attempt, I repeat, attempt, to hammer some wooden pegs into a shoe. As she puts the pegs into her mouth, now she's about to strike. Oh, she puts some in her mouth. Oh, that style, oh boy. And it splits. Boy, I'm glad she isn't working here. There she goes on another one.
Okay, now we're at the point where the heel is attached to the shoe itself. Secured there by nails, rubber heel nails. At this point, the heel of the shoe has been rough trimmed, and now the operator is sanding the heel for the first 3 times. At this point now, we're at the edge trimming operation. This is one of the major operations performed on a pair of shoes. And I think Bob would like to ask Ruben a few questions.
About how many shoes do you turn out a day?
Huh?
About how many shoes do you turn out a day?
400.
How fast does this operation go?
500.
How long would it take you to complete one shoe?
One shoe? Oh, I don't know. About a minute.
At this point now, the heels are sanded on 2 different good sandpapers now. That makes a total of 3 sandings that those heels have had. By doing this, we get a very fine, smooth edge. In this operation, Shirley is applying ink to the edge of the outsole. She has to be very careful that this ink does not get onto the upper, as it is, once it's on there, it is not removed. This operator is burnishing the heels, which means, by means of friction, he is turning that dull ink into a bright luster. I think any visitor through this factory, their one question that they have in their mind and always ask is, how do you get that last out of there once that shoe is built around it? Well, that's what this operation is right here. All those wooden pegs that were driven into the bottom of the shoe by the peggers, of course, extend right through the insole. They must be removed, and this is the operation whereby they are removed. At this point, the operator is putting a sock liner into the shoe, which covers up the ground-off wooden peg surface and also the clinched heel nails. We're now in the finishing and packing room. These operations are performed entirely by ladies. The shoe is washed to remove all the impurities that might have gathered through the manufacturing process. A dressing is then applied to the shoe upper that makes the shoe ready for the final spraying, which we will witness at the other end of the line. Before the shoes are sprayed, they are inspected for scratches, minor scratches, or cuts, or anything that would not meet the production standards that we have set. Here the shoe has reached one of the last operations, and that is applying the spray to the upper, whereby the final shine is. Here we are at the end of the line of the manufacturing pair of Scholl shoes. Ruby is stamping the box, which identifies the shoe as to style, size, width, and a code which tells us what year the shoes were manufactured in. After stamping these boxes, she then goes over, places the shoes inside the box. We are now in the shipping department. Kenny is checking over the shoes in the boxes against the order to make sure that what the customer has ordered is what he's going to receive.
How many pairs of shoes do you average a week?
Well, we make approximately 600 to 625 pairs per day, so if you're a good mathematician now, let's put you to a test here and see how many that figures out to be. Composition means, you know what composition is? Something put together. Composing, really a composition, so it's not a leather sole, it's different materials put together.
What shoes at this point do you think that are most widely used by people?
Well, most of our shoes are dress shoes. Are you asking me what style?
Yeah.
Well, I would say I could give you a number. It's a style 5224, which means nothing to you, but that's one of our style that moves the fastest, and I think it does basically because of the fitting qualities of the shoe. Well, Mr. Pampano is responsible for picking out the designs and then after these designs are picked out, or the styles are picked out, a gathering of the sales representatives in Chicago goes through all of these styles, trials, and from those they decide which shoes they feel will sell the best.
About how many different styles of shoes do you have?
Well, on most styles we have two colors, like brown and black, or even more than that, but if we count the different colors, I would say we have between 90 and 100.
Does any of your family like help in the grounds work outside?
Well, no, I think you're kind of trying to get somebody's name on this tape here. If you're asking about Bill, no, but Bob or Jack, my oldest son, helps maintaining grounds here. Do you have any other questions? Well, about the time that Mr. Blue Jay called me, I just happened to run across a few little items here in one of the trade papers, and I'd like to get this on tape because it's something that, when you stop to think of it, is really remarkable. And I'd like to read it. In the course of a lifetime, the average person walks around the world twice. A person weighing 150 pounds takes a step about 3 feet in length. In 1 mile of walking, each foot and shoe takes a pounding amounting to 66 tons of weight. The average person walks about 5 miles a day, so your shoes will carry a daily load of 330 tons. In a week, it amounts to 2,300 tons, and in 1 month, 10,000 tons. And reading this over, I think behind this is the basic philosophy that we've used in manufacturing shoes here in Jefferson, and that is that we stress the quality, and we've always purchased the raw materials, the best raw materials that we can, put in the shoes. And I think the number of years that we've been in business here goes to prove that point, that we make a pretty good shoe here in Jefferson. And I hope someday that some of these students that are watching this film come and join us here at Dr. Scholl. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.